Hello, welcome to another video on data structure and algorithm masterclass. I made some changes to the program. I realized it is important we cover the implementation of this data structure before moving to big O notation. So today we'll be talking about the primitive data structure. What is the primitive data structure? A primitive data structure is considered as the fundamental data structure, and it allows storing the values of only one data type. So in a simple put, a primitive data structure stores only one data type. So these are the properties of a primitive data structure. We have an integer, float, character, boolean, and string. Depending on the programming language you are working with, if we are working with Python, for example, we have a type which is none. That is also a primitive data structure. So let's look at some code example. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is to create a variable called name. And for the name, I want to give it a type of string. So this string will just be some simple name. So let me use my name as an example. So what this means is that this variable here name can only accept a string. We can add a number. It can't accept a number or boolean. If you want to use a number, you need to declare another variable and give it a type int. Actually, it doesn't necessarily you have to give it a type. I am just doing this for clarification purpose. But Python does has a type notation. So I'm going to give it age. I'll give it 10. So if you want to create a Boolean variable, you can also give it a type, a bool, and you can assign a value to it. So the takeaway here is any of this variable declared can only accept only one type. For Boolean, it can accept only a Boolean. For an integer, it can only accept numbers, which is numerical values. And for name, which is a string, it can only accept a string. So let me print out the type. So to print out the type, all I need to do is use the type class and print the name. So I'm going to print the age, and lastly, I'm going to print the Boolean value. So if I save and run on my console, you can see it gives me what the type here. So next, we want to look at the linear data structure. And in the linear data structure, we are going to consider the static linear data structure, which is what? An array. What is an array? An array is a collection of data elements stored at contiguous memory locations. It is the simplest data structure where each data element can be accessed directly by using its index number. What does that mean? It means every position in an array has an index number, and every index can be used to access a particular value. If you look at this array I'm showing here, you can see at index 0, we have the value which is 17. So to access the value, all we need to do is to call that array and point the index to it. Then we are going to get the value 17. The same fashion continue up to the length of the array. Let us see some code example. So I'm going to create a file. So I'm going to create an array. I'm going to use LST as my array. Then I'm going to assign some value. So these are just some random value. I have a total of 5 elements. And I want you to know something, right? So the index starts from 0. So we have index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and index 4. Okay, so it is important you take note of that. To access the first value, so we need to call index 0. And for us to get index 0, we call the array and pass in the index. So if I pass in index 0, I'm going to save and print out on my console. You can see I have 22, which is the first item in the array. If you want to access the second item, you pass the second index, save and run. You can see it gives me what? 44. There are a lot of built-in functions with an array. So to see some built-in function to manipulate data in the array, I'm going to use a dot notation, and you can see we can use pop. What does pop does? It remove and return item at a particular index. So basically it return the last item in the array. Okay, so we can also do append, right? And what append does is what it append an object to the end of the list. So it's going to add a new item to the list. So let me just do some example here. I'm going to print the list. So I'm going to save and run. You can see the number has been added. For the number 4444 has been added to the list. There are a whole lot of things you can do with an array. I will refer you to the Python documentation of an array so that you can read and know the method you want to make use of in an array. So what are the uses of an array? Arrays are widely used to store collection of data. Arrays give you the opportunity to iterate over each element in an array. Arrays are frequently used for sorting and searching algorithms. We're going to see that in the future. Array can be used to implement FIFO, which is the first in and first out, and LIFO, the last in and first out. There are a whole lot of things you can do with an array. You can actually make some research about them. These are just the few things you can do with an array. So in the next video, we are going to cover a dynamic linear data structure, and we're going to talk about the linked list. So ensure you like and subscribe. I will see you in another video.